I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you're on to Souq News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News who had the courage to transcend a locked off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
There's been a lot of fundraise, especially in the tech environment in Nigeria, and there's every need to be cautious, not to think that the fundraise itself is the end point. It's a means to an end. If the job is 100%, the fundraise is just 20. There's still 80% to go. So what you certainly do not do is to raise funds and shortly thereafter go onto social media and brag about the brand new car you bought or the apartment you've moved into in Banana Island. It doesn't make for good optics. And unfortunately, when you really need the benefit of doubt, you might not get it from your investors. You don't raise money and then ask, so what should I do with the money? At that time, it's too late, you've lost the plot. When you raise money, you would have raised it based on the back of an agreement with your investor, clearly outlining how the money will be spent and how the returns will come. It's imperative to stick to that plan. And if anything changes in the environment or in the business and you have to pivot or there's going to be a significant change, it's imperative to then get the buy-in of the investor. The investors are not philanthropists. This is what we need to understand. They are not giving grants. The investors are astute businessmen who are not necessarily content with the normal rate of returns of placing money in the bank or buying bonds. And that's why they take the risk of putting their funds in a risky venture, such as a startup, which has no track record. What we have to bear in mind is that when the investor gives you any amount of money to invest in the business, come rain or shine, he will typically ask you for 3 times of that in 5 years. So let's do the math. Let's say that I took $1 million as a raise from an investor in, say, 2015, when the dollar was 200 naira per dollar. 5 years on, in 2020, I'll be expected to return to that investor $3 million. $3 million in 2020 at 440 per dollar is about 1.32 billion naira. Now, if you keep the money for longer, then it's even getting more tricky because the exchange rate is falling and you have to do more to pay back. Let's put that figure aside. Bear it in mind, 1.32 billion. If I had approached the bank in 2015 to borrow the same amount of $1 million, at that time it was 200 million naira. So I borrowed 200 million naira. Interest rate is 20%. In 5 years, that's another 200 naira. So what I'll return to the bank will be 200 naira interest plus 200 million naira that I borrowed. I'll be returning 400 million naira. And then compare this in the same period with someone who raised money and has to return 1.32 billion naira. This gives you a sense when I say that raising the money is just the tip of the iceberg. If your business has not reached an inflection point, if your business has not proved this concept, then venture capital money may not necessarily be for you unless there is a match, which means you are earning in the currency that you borrowed in. So you borrowed in dollars and then you are earning in dollars. Or you have what we call a forward contract with a bank to hedge against exchange loss if it is available. But if not, then you take VC money when you have captured the cost of building the business such that any additional customer is a contribution margin. In that case, it makes sense to scale very quickly because every customer is adding to the bottom line. That is when it makes sense to take the VC money because then they are sharing in the profit and they are helping you to grow the business quickly to deliver that profit. Bear in mind, raising money is not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. Pursue that end.
Dr. Ajili to be his.
My name is Etemari Glover.
Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
My name is Dr. Ajili to be his.
My name is Etemari Glover.
Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souq News. If you're not watching Souq News, I pity you, but keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timi Dakolo, and you're watching Souq News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwa.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Ache, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamaze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of oil-based solution we will be looking at.
We are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, it's the dawn of a new day, a new week, another opportunity for us to look at issues related to business, finance, and the economy. This is Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. As you know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we'll be looking at the U.S. Student loan granted by the U.S. President Joe Biden, and by extension, we're going to look at the student loan being granted by our president as well. Also, we're going to look at local production of oil. These are more other things we'll be looking at today on today's edition of Early Exchange. Don't forget, you can be part of this conversation by going on our YouTube platform, on our social media platform, using the hashtag Early Exchange. As we spend the next 2 hours with us, we hope to make your day worthwhile, and we hope you're ready for us. Blessing is ready for you as well. Blessing, good morning.
Good morning, Febby. Good to see you in the new week.
Yeah.
I see your weekend paid off.
Yeah. You know, the weekend, you just have to utilize it well. Once you utilize it well, you feel the impact.
It feels like one has to know how to manage time really for you to get the most out of the weekend. So I see you've done your lessons very well.
Exactly. We have several teachers in house who have taught us to always maximize our time and manage our resources. That's exactly what I've done. And you too, you're looking good as well.
Thank you very much.
Part of having a good weekend.
Well, what can we say? We can't complain. It's a new weekend. We're glad to know that you could be here with us on Early Exchange. And like Femi has already told you, we'll be looking at some basic necessities, how they are impacting each and every one of us globally. Yes, it's not just about Nigeria, you know, that we'll begin looking at the global scene before we come to Africa and then to Nigeria. We ask that, as always, you stay with us on the show because you'll be well informed and you just know where to take position and take advantage of whatever is happening in the globe. Now, to update us on current happenings, Adesua Eremusele is standing by in the news studio. Hello, Adesua.
Hello and welcome to the news update right here on Souq News. I'm Adesua Iromoseli. We begin from China, which has maintained its benchmark lending rate at their monthly fixing in line with expectations due to downturn pressure on the yuan. The People's Bank of China opted for stability after holding the medium-term lending facility rate steadied the previous week. Despite indications of an uneven economic recovery and deflationary pressures impacting borrowing costs, analysts including Julian Evan Pritchard of Capital Economics noted policymakers' concerns about the yuan, avoiding a rate cut that could intensify depression. The one-year loan prime rate remained at 3.45% and the five-year rate at 4.20% as predicted by most market watchers. Additionally, market observers anticipate liquidity injections before the Lunar New Year holidays to address increased cost demand. Moving on, Israeli renewable energy firm Solar Edge Technologies has announced a workforce reduction of approximately 16%, affecting around 900 employees as part of its strategy to cut operation costs. The decision follows the discontinuation of manufacturing in Mexico, reduced manufacturing capacity in China, and determination of light commercial vehicle e-mobile activities. CEO Zvi Lando stated that the difficult but necessary measures aim to align the company's cost structure with the rapid changing market dynamics. The energy firm has previously adjusted its fourth quarter revenue expectations in November due to weak demand for its solar inverters, impacted by a slowdown in solar growth in Europe and reduced demand in the United States, particularly in California, the largest solar market, influenced by higher interest rates and metering reforms. In a bid to address the recent volatility affecting the Zimbabwe dollar, the government of Zimbabwe says it will introduce new reforms measures to the foreign currency auction system and an increase in foreign currency supply. The recent depreciation of the local currency is attributed to speculative behavior and a scarcity of hard currency during the current high demand season, driven by a mismatch between increased import demand and low foreign currency inflows. Finance Minister Professor Mutli Nkobe revealed that the government plans to implement both fiscal and monetary policy interventions, including potential auctions design and increase foreign currency supply to mitigate further declines and manage inflation. And now Africa's commercial nerve, Lagos, southwest Nigeria, has declared a ban on utilization and distribution of styrofoam and other single-use plates throughout the state. The announcement made yesterday by Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, cited the environmental concerns posed by single-use plastics, particularly the non-biodegradable styrofoam. In addition to the ban, he urged waste operators to embrace digitalization for enhanced waste management, advocating for the adoption of online portals equipped with GPS receivers in waste collection trucks to ensure accurate tracking of locations. The Japanese government has initiated its third major round of auctions seeking operators for 2 new offshore wind power areas with a combined capacity of 1.05 gigawatt in the northern region of the country. One area located in the southern part of the Japan Sea of Aomori Prefecture near Sugure City and Ajigasawa Town will have a capacity of 600 megawatt. The other, situated off the coast of Yamagata Prefecture near Yuza Town, will have a capacity of 450 megawatt. Both will feature fixed-bottom wind farms, with projects expected to commence by mid-2030, and the successful bidder will have access to the sea area for up to 30 years. And with that, we'll wrap up the morning update. Many thanks to you for watching. I'm Adesoa Iromoseli.
Thank you very much, Adiswa Misole, for the news update. We're going to a quick break and then we'll begin to look at some of the global issues.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo early into the Adeliji Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today, solid minerals as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, we're going to start today's conversation by looking at some of the stories that are trending on the global scene, and we're going to start from China, where China is battling with issue of population. According to statistics released in 2023, the population of China has declined to 1.4 billion. We're going to look at the impact of these on the economy and then the growth of this country. To help us shed more light on this, we have been joined in the studio by a special guest, Abiodun Bamidele. He's a business human capital development consultant. Bamidele, glad you have you join us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Your first time on Early Exchange?
Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here.
Great. Yes. All right, let's start with what's happening in China. You're aware of the population decline. According to statistics released in 2023 by the Bureau of Statistics, it has declined to 1.4 billion. Help us understand the implication of this and the background to this development in China.
Okay. Thank you. One more time, let me say thank you for having me. And I want to say good morning to all our viewers at home and different parts, of the world. We need to understand that the issue of the decline of China's population is not just a matter of number, because if we don't contextualize that, somebody will be wondering, why is that a matter of concern? Now, you need to first understand it from what exactly is happening. And to say it in a very simple layman language, what is happening in China now is that the old people, I'm trying to be as basic as I can, all right? The demographics of China is actually changing very drastically. So what it means is that China is experiencing less birth rate, whereas the death rate is higher when you compare it to birth rate. That's one. Number two is that the implication of that is that the workforce of China as a nation is actually declining, because when you have less of young people in your population and you are having a population that is predominantly occupied by very old people, so it shows that productivity will be declining because it is young people that work, isn't it? All right. Then number three is that you will discover that the expenditure of China on social security will be skyrocketing, whereas what is coming in to buffer that is not as much as what is going out. So you just declare that when you look at the whole gamut of what I've just mentioned now, except something very drastic, a drastic step is taken, the economy of China can be going in the decline. Remember that also this aging group, their disposable income is reducing as they are growing. So the capacity to purchase is also going to be reducing. And if people are producing and there are no people buying, so you and I already know what that means. You don't have to be an economist to understand that. So let's just stop it there for now. But basically, the economy of China, if care is not taken, we continue to have a dive. Maybe I should also add this. If you also listen to the news, you discover that a number of investors are leaving China because everything that has to do with market anywhere in the world is a matter of number. So if the number is decreasing and there's nothing being done to show that we're going to put a tie to that immediately, then people are saying, am I still going to be here? Am I still being here? So I think I need to be thinking outside of the box and think of where next to go. So maybe we can stop there for now.
All right, you've highlighted the implications of China's decreased population, and from the look of things, it's going to decrease continually because you will not give birth to people and it grew so soon to make up that. But countries that have had issues with low labor force, have used some other mechanism to cope with
That's
it.
right.
Either by opening their immigration,
their borders
for other persons, other people from other countries to come in. Is there a possibility of China doing the same? Do you see people from other parts of the world, particularly developing countries, rushing to China as they've done to European countries?
You know, it will be difficult to predict what the leadership of China, what exactly they are thinking. You also remember that the issue on ground is also traceable to a fundamental policy of that nation, that every family cannot have more than a child. All right? But like you said, in some other liberal economy that China is not, maybe we need to emphasize that China is not. They discover, well, we don't want to continue to give birth because sometimes there are a lot of associated matters with that. So we open our borders for people who have relevant skill that seems to be in deficiency at our hand so that they can come in. Now, I cannot tell how soon China will want to respond to that, but it must be on the table that China is not as liberal, economy as some other nations that you want to start comparing them to. So whether the leadership will want to take that route or not is not something that anybody can say with affirmation. We only hope maybe it's going to be one of the options they want to consider, and consider as quickly as possible.
Prior to now, the conversation was, controlling the population of China. And now, down the years, the reality is here that it's an eminent, negativity if it is not managed. Looking at the birth rate in China is about 6.3% to 1,000. Now, do you expect that something should be done in that direction in order to manage this upcoming crisis?
Just like I responded to her, we can only postulate. We can only look at what has happened in some other climes and say, well, this happened here, this happened here, so we can project that this will also happen here. But ultimately, that final decision as to whether that will be done or not rests on the leadership of China. Now, when you already say that a family cannot have more than a child, and to further ensure that that happens, the cost associated with birth rate is extremely high, and deliberately so that policy can find expression. But maybe what China is forgetting is the fact that ultimately the global world market is about number. Now, going back to the matter of the way the population is declining, a time will come that cost of labor will become grossly expensive, in China. And when that happens, all the other associated factors of production will also find their expression. So I will only want to say, let's hope so. Because, at the end of the day, we can't decide for China. But it is a path that seems reasonable, seems logical, and seems to be needed to face the critical situation that is on ground now.
All right, taking it from there, is there a lesson to learn for other countries that may be watching the China situation? Take, for instance, Nigeria. It's the reverse. Nigeria has a population issue. The population of Nigeria keeps growing, and there have been advocacy for controlled birth rates to reduce the population. On the other side, you have China dealing with a population decreasing. Now, is that something that China got wrong while implementing that policy to discourage people having more than one children? Is there something that could have been done before it got to the point where it became a problem to them?
Now, maybe we should look at it this way. I'm a father. I have 10 children. He is a father. He has 20 children. On the face value, we can say he has more children than I do. But you need to also now dig a little deeper. What resources does he have to take care of his 20 children? What were the thoughts on his heart as at the time he was having 20 children? for me, is not first and foremost just about number. It is about to what extent do you have an environment where that number can be productive. I know we are not in that age, but let's step back a little. In the days of our grandfathers, you know, what determines the size of your farm is the size of your family. But you will notice that it wasn't just a matter of number. Number was going alongside with productivity. Now, coming to your question, Nigeria as we are today, there's no arguing it. There is a lot of infrastructural deficiency. The growth rate in terms of population and development, they are not moving at par. So maybe that would be the reason for advocacy. Let's make sure that we don't muddle things up. But when you want to compare Nigeria with China, you want to start looking at some very basic fundamentals. Per capita income, the GDP, and all those very basic. I feel that number was not exactly the sole challenge of China. A lot of other things also maybe work together to bring them to where they are. So Nigeria, therefore, cannot maybe want to take a lesson to the fact that before you take a decision, don't just look at it at the face value. Do a comprehensive analysis of what you're about to do. If you take Nigeria, for instance, now, we call it giant of Africa. For what reason? Is it infrastructure? I don't think so. Maybe because of the number. And that is why Nigeria is a nation where almost everyone wants to have a presence in. Why? Because of the number. So if anything should be our concern now as a nation, it is how do we accelerate our infrastructural development so that growth rate of population and that of infrastructure and all other economic indicators are moving at the same level.
Now let's look at what could be the likely economic implication of China's aging population. It's people will keep aging. You can't control
Definitely.
that.
It's a natural tendency.
Yeah, but there are policies that can be put in place to checkmate this. How do you intend, or how do you think China could manage this? And then give us a picture of the economic implication of this development in China. You know, when you have the age bracket between 60 and 70, and how it's going to affect productivity of that economy.
It is very simple. When you have the large chunk of your population drawing from public resources, and what is coming in possibly to, replace what is going out is not commensurate. You will just discover that one day you will get, it's like your bank account. You are drawing more than you are saving into that account. You will suddenly discover that one day, one time, you will get to that bank account and discover that there's actually nothing there to draw. It's as basic as that. Why would that be the case? Like I mentioned earlier, social security, payments into social security will rise. Productivity will continue to drop because you do not have a number of your people in the productive population. What that means is that the law of demand and supply will come into cost of labor. All right? Cost of labor becomes extremely expensive. It is only therefore organizations that can operate at that level that will keep working. So businesses are likely going to shut down, especially when you're looking at it from the angle of the small and the medium-sized enterprises. There are certain indicators that cannot make them operate. When the cost of running operations is already more or less like matching up with your revenue, you are going to ease out of business. But it's not only even just China. I remember sometimes ago my son was asking, Daddy, why is it that when you check around Nigeria, a lot of things are made in China, made in China, made in China. That was because the cost of production was at the low, and then mass production was possible. Then pricing becomes, you know, something you can juggle with. Immediately the figures are on the rise. That will no longer be the case. And then also thirdly, when people are not productive, their real income, their disposable income, everything comes on the decline. So I therefore think China is heading in a crisis, except something is done very quickly. But you also remember that even some other nations of the world leverage on China for one thing or the other. Immediately that option is becoming unaffordable. Those other nations will also begin to look elsewhere for cheaper options. That will further complicate the situation with China.
Now, looking for options outside of China.
Okay.
Does it open up opportunities for countries around China, countries in Asia?
Definitely. That's what it means. That's what it means. Because when you shut your door, it's an opportunity for people who had always been with you to say, where else can I go? So they would therefore be on search for, where do I get exactly what I could get from China, but either get it cheaper or get it faster and all of that. Therefore, the Asian continent, people who know what they are doing, it is time to start getting ready. But I will also say that it might not even be limited to the Asian continent. A nation like Nigeria should start thinking, how does this actually benefit us? And that is why the other matter that we'll be looking at later, the matter of human capital development, because that's the way I see it, what Biden is doing in the US. If we can begin to invest seriously in human capital development, I see Nigeria, it might not be in the immediate, standing in one of those platforms where China has played a big boy role, maybe in the years before now. So nations around the continent of Asia, especially those who are also growing, maybe not exactly at the same rate, but when you compare their own level of where they started from and where they are now, you can say they are also growing and they are making progress. Maybe it is time for them to start getting ready to say some of those opportunities may end up coming to us. We should put our house in order and get ready.
All right, talking about putting our house in order, that refers to Nigeria or Africa, what we need to do to mitigate the effect of this development. But that would take place after this short break. Stay with us.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown. Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to Souq News. If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it, because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News, who had the courage to transcend a locked-off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
Energy or whatever kind of oil-based solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, we're still looking at issues trending across the globe, and precisely at this junction, we're looking at the development in China. We're looking at the aging population of China and the economic implication of that. And our guest is still here with us. Glad to know you're still here with us.
Thank you.
Now, earlier you were talking about the implication of this development to the Asia countries. Now, by extension, let's look at African continent and Nigeria. What could be the impact of this development for a country like Nigeria, and what are lessons inherent for African leaders looking at the development in China?
Maybe I will look at it both from the angle of the immediate and maybe much later. Now, part of the immediate is that a lot of nations in the sub-Saharan Africa are net importers when it comes to their relationship with China. And one of the reasons for that, like we mentioned earlier, is because most of the products from that part of the world are cheap, affordable, especially even when you compare them to what is locally manufactured. The first immediate impact will be that there's a likelihood that quantum of business transaction might drop. Because, like we mentioned earlier, some organizations have taken the step already. Some are also in the process of thinking, do we still want to be in China? Now, if cost of operation goes up, China will also not be able to leverage pricing as a tool of comparative advantage anymore. Therefore, what comes from China may no longer be as cheap as they used to be. Now, if I need to spend more to get what I used to get before, let's say I need to spend a little extra naira to get that. What that does is that it's making me poorer in a way because I have less now left to do other things. So some families, households, and all of that may be at that receiving end. And even as a nation, you know, when you look at what goes to China from Nigeria and what we receive. Of course, we are net importer too, also leveraging the same reason of the cost of things coming from that angle are not as expensive. But that might change. That might change. And the impact is what I just mentioned. Now, the second question is, what should African nations...
Lessons for African nations, or African leaders.
Okay. Now, I think it was on Sunday. I wrote a small article. Please allow, it's just a little digression. I said, I live on the mainland of Lagos, and I had to come to the island. This is going to be the third time I'm doing that in January. And I was saying that I was impressed at the way the ongoing repairs work on the Third Mainland Bridge is being handled this time around. Yes, people still have to go through some level of hardship, but it occurred to me that the leadership took time this time around to think through the process, to ensure that the level of hardship that is coming to the people is not as much as it used to be. So I want to say that part of the major lessons for leaders in Africa, before a policy is given to the point of execution, please think it through. If you need to involve professionals to look at it from different angles, please do. Because it is always cheaper to prepare than to repair. I don't think the leadership of China ever thought they will be in the situation they are now. So that shows that think deeply, think comprehensively before you take a decision. That's number one. Number two, never get to a point where you think, I am so big and nothing, it doesn't matter what is happening around me, before it can affect me, it will really take a lot of time. We are no longer in the world where somebody is a small player in one corner. It's now a small village. So what you do is affecting not only you, but every other nation around you. So think comprehensively, think extensively, and do not allow the arrogance of, I have gotten here and nothing can happen to me happen. I think those are the two major things I would really like to say to every African leader if I have opportunity to meet them, to learn from what is happening to China currently.
All right. China being one of the top world economies doesn't look like it would like to relinquish its position so easily by allowing the opportunities and the investors leave China. And China
has been very innovative. Do you see them trying to come up with technology to handle this issue? They have been at the forefront of developing robots using AI. Do you see that? Do you see them going massive on that?
There is a possibility. There is a possibility. And when just like you said, you can't take it away from China when it comes to all sorts of innovation. You know, not too long ago, I was seeing them move an entire building without having to pull it down. I'm still trying to understand how they did that. However, if that is going to be an option, I think it should happen on time. Usually, we forget that while we are planning, thinking, and all of that, that does not make other people to be on a halt. They are also moving. So if China is considering that, possibly, good way to go, but I will say let it be on time. However, in as much as I know technology has made our life and living better, a lot of things changing for the better, there are still places where that human touch cannot be totally taken out. So in addition to possibly doing that, maybe China also want to consider making its environment a bit more liberal, so that the option that you raised earlier that some other nations took advantage of when they found themselves in this kind can be going side by side with the introduction and innovation that can come through technology.
All right, we've been talking about China for a while, looking at the decline and the population growth of China for a second year in a row and its implications. We're going to quick break. When we return, we'll turn to look at another issue. This time, it'll be about the U.S.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market, located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, Souq Enlightenment. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing H.A., Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osameze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, away from China, let's take a look at the student loan relief in U.S. On Friday, U.S. President Joe Biden announced a debt forgiveness, of about $5 billion. And according to statistics, about 74,000 Americans are going to benefit from this, including teachers and students. Our guest is still here and is here in position to give us a better perspective as regards this development. Now back to U.S., away from China, we're traveling this morning.
Yes, that is a good one.
Across the globe. So we're back in U.S.
Okay.
Now, give us a proper assessment of this initiative. There are people from Souq quarters who feel, okay, this is political, looking at the timing. There's the argument, okay, this is focusing on human capital development. There are some who are also thinking of, okay, what will be the implication of this? Give us a background to this. What will be the implication of this kind of development?
Okay. All right. Maybe because when it comes to the matter of human capital development, is a place where even if I was sleeping, I will wake up. Now, call it political. You might not be totally wrong, but that is not a matter for me. What is most important is that initiative. What does it mean? And what is the implication of that? Now, you can look at it from different angles depending on what exactly is your focus. Number one, if you look at it from the angle of public expenditure, you will say is a loss of revenue to America, because that amount of money that people are being asked to, say, don't worry, to repay, ought to have come in as a dimension of inflow, all right? Maybe over a period of time. But when you now flip the same coin to now say, this is a directed human capital development initiative, because I noticed that it's not an open-handed initiative. Teachers were mentioned, nurses were mentioned, and maybe one or two other, very specific vocations.
Firefighters.
Firefighters, thank you. Firefighters. So let's look at those areas again. Teachers, nurses, firefighters. I rather see this as a vocational investment in human capital development in these specific areas. It possibly also showed to me that this is a nation that is sitting down to carry out maybe their human capital audit. What do we have in this area, in this area, in this area? What is the next 5, 10, 20 years going to look like in these specific areas? How do we ensure that we take certain steps now to ensure that in the next few years, we are not finding ourselves in a situation where we are in crisis in this area? That is the way I would like to see this. Maybe also to now add, this is money placed in the hands of individuals. In a way, loss, but in a way, is going to be something that accelerates productivity. Because if I'm meant to pay you $1 million, I'm using that as an example, as loan repayment, and you say, don't bother. I'm sure there are a few conditions attached, but don't bother to repay. For this reason and for that reason, that $1 million is not available to me, both as disposable income, what can go into investment, and all of that. So when you look at the entire chain, it's losing in one hand, face value speaking, but gaining in many ways when you look at what the implication of that spending is going to be like. So that would be my first initial reaction.
All right. Now, this is not the first time that President Biden had tried to do this. And like Femi asked, is it political? Now, I recall that the Supreme Court last year blocked his move to forgive this student loans, and him going ahead to do it. What message does that send to the American population, even as the election draws near? I think that's a question that we cannot run away from.
The timing is making the matter a bit, subjective. I agree. But, like I said, politicians will always be politicians. Let's not deceive ourselves. But beyond the politics of it, what is that doing to America as a nation and as an economy? I think I would rather want to focus my attention more on the latter than the former. Because don't forget, in some other climes, politicians will still do what they want to do, still spend maybe close to that amount, but for the things that might not have so much of direct benefit to the people. And they will still do what they want to do and still get what they want to get. So we can't totally run away from the fact that some political motivation can be there and all of that. But I would rather want to look at what is it doing to human capital development in America and what is it doing to the economy of America. But like you said, we can't run away from the fact that politics is in this. I think the president is just using maybe a dimension of his veto power to say this is not beyond what I can actually do, regardless of what like the court says and all of that, the other time that he wanted to take that step. So I would rather want to look at the benefit of that initiative than what is the driving force and what is the motivation.
Let's look at another angle to this development, which is the angle of repayment of loan. Looking at this kind of development, will it not further encourage people to default when it comes to repayment of loan with this kind of development?
Sometimes as a leader, you want to get to a point where you are saying to yourself, solutions to matters, hardly will you find a one jacket fits all. Now, this has come now. I don't think necessarily that the message is to say to people, when you have loan, don't pay, because a time will come when government will write it off. If people see it from that angle, also do not forget that this is an environment that is possibly not like some of the ones we have around us, where people just do things and they know that they can go away with it. This is an environment where there are structures, there are systems, there are processes, there are procedures to things, such that you can hardly run away with these things. It's either you pay it, in a way that is maybe gradual and beneficial to you, or at the end of the day, you are compelled by law to do that. So while there might be the possibility of people thinking that way, I don't see that happening on a large scale.
Okay, let's look at affordability. Is this forgiveness something that America can easily afford? Is it going to have any impact on their finances?
When it comes to issues of finance, America is a nation that is shrouded in some mysteries. Now, you will say it's the leading economy of the world, but when you look at the debt portfolio of America, you will know that it is not a bed of roses as we think it is. But the next question will now be to ask, are there mechanisms that can absorb this without necessarily throwing America into major crisis? Yes, $5 billion is a lot of money, but compared to America's GDP and all the other economic indicators, I don't necessarily see $5 billion as something that can actually maybe throw America into a situation of we are in a mess. It's not small money. I agree with that, 100%. But I think it's something that, the system can manage and accommodate.
All right. Let's bring the conversation home now.
Okay.
Nigeria seems to have something similar to this, which the student loan the president has announced is going to kick off in January. Now, looking at the model in US, what kind of example can we draw for Nigeria as it intends to kick off its own student loan arrangement? And then how do you think this can be handled? It will not like the other policies that looks political and in the end will not achieve the aim intended.
If I want to be very honest with you, I would say I am both excited and at the same time a bit afraid. And I'm saying that looking at the way we have handled matters in the past. However, you cannot stick to the past and fail to still take steps forward. The first question will be, how ready are we? And when I say how ready are we? America, for instance, if you get 1 naira 100 years ago, be rest assured, if that matter is to be addressed today, there's adequate record that can show that 100 years ago, you got this. Data management is still a matter for us as a nation. Maybe I want to start from there. Have you ever wondered, why is it that you want to have a driver's license, your biometrics will be taken, you need to get your international passport, you go through the same process again, you get to the bank, you say you want to open a bank account, you go through the same process again, the stories go on and on. I'm wondering, is it extremely impossible or is it extremely difficult or impossible to integrate all of this and have an interface? So the first question would be, how ready are we to know we gave this much to this, and this one is in Kano, this one is in Kaduna, this one is Zaria, this one is in and all of that. That is one. Number two is even the orientation of Nigerians as a people. Because, leaders are not from the sky. They are from amongst the people. The orientation of, I'm just having my own bit of the national cake. To what extent have we dealt with that? Because it's a paradigm issue. So if that has not been well dealt with, I can almost promise you is an initiative that is going to fail before it starts. Because a young man is taking a loan of X amount, is saying to himself, this is just my own chunk of the national cake. So data management, proper orientation, and then the sincerity of the leadership to say, this is not about politics. It's about ensuring that we are grooming a people that can actually own and run this nation to become what is happening in some other parts of the world. Because take it or leave it, the quality of people that you have is the quality of the society you have. So I'm excited that we are thinking in that direction, because do you know the number of Nigerians that cannot afford to send their children to the university? Even what we call the public university, they are increasingly becoming more expensive by the day. So let there be total sincerity of heart, let there be transparency, and then all the structures that will drive this process and ensure that we make a success of it, let's not play games with that. I think those will be the things, I would really want to see, maybe for now.
There's a school of thought that thinks that the student loans to be given to students in Nigeria should not be paid into private accounts, but rather to institutions. Okay. Let's look at the case of America. Now, the debt forgiveness for those who took student loans majorly are going to persons with less than $12,000 in student loans and who have been making payments for at least 10 years. Now, even in a place
like America, with the social security and everything, you still have people who are defaulting on student loans. Bring that now to Nigeria. Would it not result to more persons defaulting if the loans were paid to private accounts as compared to paid to institutions? After all, the purpose is for education. What's your take?
You know, maybe you are just building on one of the points I mentioned earlier, that what has happened in our minds, if nothing has happened in the mind, bring the best experts, bring the best process and all of that, everything is going to be a flop. Pay, whether you're paying into the school, you are also assuming that the school will do the right thing. Okay? Now, whether it's paid into, I think maybe first I should first establish that I prefer that school of thought of let's pay to who are meant to be the receiver of the fund for the service that they render. But I also want to say that even at that, you cannot beat your chest that until all of us come to the table to say we want to do this and we want to do it well, even at that, there can still be some dimensions of funny games. Let's take the health insurance scheme that started a couple of years ago as an example. It will shock you what is happening. I don't want to, you know, this is not a show for that. If you hear things that are happening behind the door, you will feel like weeping. So, at the end of the day, everyone involved in the value chain must come to a point of we want to do this and we want to do it right. Now, when you talk about the default rate in America, you know, there is always a thought of, I think this is what tomorrow is going to look like. But oftentimes we forget that tomorrow is not entirely in our hands. So someone takes a student loan, hoping and thinking that 1 year after that I get a job and I get this kind of job. When some of those parameters do not align, that is what leads to this dimension of, you know, default that you were talking about. But you will notice that in the kind of environment of America you're referring to, only maybe a very minimal percentage will actually, if at all there is any, that has the mind of I do not intend to pay. Maybe for some of them is actually that the realities around them and what they thought is going to be were not just aligning. I foresee a situation where when we do things right and we bring our people to the point of if you benefit and you pay back on time, that gives another person opportunity to do the same. Those level of orientation might be part of the things that will help us to ensure that we get there. I want to say openly and clearly, we still have good Nigerians. We still have good Nigerians. We still have people who have conscience, who are willing and ready to do the right thing. I just pray that that number keep increasing so that we have a critical mass of people who will be willing and ready to do what is right, regardless of the situation and circumstance they find themselves.
All right, let's wrap up with this conversation. Looking at all this, what do you think the kind of control mechanism that the federal government needs to put in place for this scheme to work the way that's intended and to also reduce, you know, people defaulting when it comes to repayment of loans?
There will be, you know, maybe a gamut of things. But the first is, even starting from the government, let there be sincerity, let there be transparency. Don't tell us you are putting ₦1 billion where you have put only half of that. There is what is called the value for money. A friend was talking to me recently that his team did a research and they discovered that for most projects done by different levels of government in Nigeria, the value for money at the end of the day is about 40%. What that means is that if government says we have spent ₦1,000 on this project, when you do a proper valuation of that project at the end of it, you will be seeing maybe only like ₦400. So ₦600 has grown wings along the line. So government needs to be sincere, government needs to be transparent. That is one. Number two, the data system that will drive this initiative has to be top-notch. We have heard over and over at different levels of government where we have what we call ghost workers. Let's also not have ghost students. All right? That's another one. And then even the entire populace of the nation, starting with the students, I believe strongly there is a lot of interface with them that is needed. See this for what it is meant to be. And if you do it well, imagine what happens when 10 years from now, you are now also sitting at this end and you are making it happen for some other people. So all of us have our roles to play. Even parents, as your students as your children are having the opportunity to access this loan, don't tell them that it is a part of your own portion of the cake. So everyone, religious leaders, community leaders, all of us have one dimension of role or the other to play if this is going to work out.
All right, we've been talking about the debt forgiveness for those who took student loans in the U.S. by President Biden. It amounts to $5 billion. Thank you very much, Abiodun Bamdili, for being with us on the conversation. When we're done, we're going to quick break. We'll return. It'll be time to look at the global supply chain. What is happening with crude supply in the world, and how does that affect everyone?
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, FESTAC, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged FESTAC 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment. Morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Many thanks for staying with us on Early Exchange. We're still looking at global issues. What are the current developments since the last time that Early Exchange was here? And what happened yesterday? What is happening this morning? How does it impact the world? Yes, we've looked at some issues, but now it's time for us to look at the global supply chain, particularly as it concerns crude oil. Now, report has it that Europe-Africa crude markets tightened on Red Sea disruptions and China demand. Now, of recent, there have been shipping delays due to vessels avoiding the Red Sea. Now, what are your thoughts on that and their opportunities it is opening up? Could it be bad for oil producing countries and even generally for logistics?
Thank you. Maybe we need to first remind ourselves that about 80% of global trade, the movement of them all, about 80% of it happen on the maritime transportation system. And then I was also checking and I discovered that even when it comes to value, maybe close to about 70% of it also happens, on the water, on the waterways. And what is it called now? I'm trying to remember exactly that. The Suez Canal, provides possibly the shortest route for products either moving from Europe to Asia or from Asia to Europe. And then we all remember what happened, that got blocked by virtue of the accident that happened. Was it 2021 or thereabout? Now, what that means is that route is a route that is now not maybe safe, so to speak, for people to want to take. So, like you said, people are avoiding that, but global trade must continue, isn't it? So, it's a challenge primarily for people wanting to move from the Mediterranean, to the Red Sea, and in that region. But the point is, if that is not going to be available, then another routes need to open up. So, it's a problem for some people. It's possibly opening up another. But the question will be, how many of those options are actually available? Maybe that's a question we need to consider. But as to whether that is creating options, some other options that people need to start thinking about, I think the answer will be yes.
Now, according to this report, this development, this tightening is attributed to the attack, on the Red Sea. Now, what does this suggest about the impact of, global terrorism and the need to focus in that direction, the impact on trade? And another side to it is just like you alluded, there's another report suggesting that this, for every, bad thing, is also a blessing in disguise. This has led to diversion to African ports. How can African, countries take advantage of this vacuum?
Maybe starting from the matter of terrorism, my first response to that would be an awareness to all of us that terrorism is not a regional thing, it's a global thing. It might be more pronounced in certain areas more than others, agreed. But no nation of the world can actually beat its chest and say, when it comes to this subject matter of terrorism, we are totally insulated. Therefore, there should be some higher levels of collaboration in that regard. How do we work together? It's no longer a matter of you handle your problem while I handle my problem. So it is obvious to all of us now that terrorism is a global matter and it has to be given that global attention. Now, coming to the shift to Africa, like I said earlier, when a road is blocked, you must definitely want to look for option. Now, attention is shifting to the African market. I'm both excited and at the same time also concerned. Excited about the fact that opportunity is coming, but worried about the fact that how ready are we really to take advantage of that. If you bring it a little, maybe more home to Nigeria, as we speak, we are grappling with even meeting our daily production quota. On the other hand, we are now also attempting to ensure that we also domesticate part of our refining process, and we want to feed our local market. So when you look at those interplays, you really want to ask what quantum of our production is actually available to take advantage of that opportunity that is coming. Maybe you want to talk about other nations like Angola and all of that. I've not really in the recent time really put my eye as to what is really happening there. But the question is, how ready are we to really take advantage of those opportunities? But the opportunities are here. I guess maybe it's time to really rise up and really ensure that we rise to the occasion and take advantage of the opportunity that what is happening, you know, in the Egyptian axis is bringing to us in this part of the world.
Now, trying to go through other routes, will that have some cost implication?
Definitely.
And what will it mean for countries that are import dependent?
Maybe to answer the questions, will it have cost implication? The answer is yes. If a journey used to take me 4 kilometers per hour, I'm using that as an example.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Julia Benite.
I'm Godio Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News. So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
The Three Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodu Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers, knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. the three wise men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodun Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the Eko greeting tradition. The three wise men, Arometa, Souq, Enlightenment. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, we sincerely apologize for that break in transmission, but you know, we're here and we're still looking at the development at the global crude oil market, and our guest is still here. Maybe this will be an opportunity for you to wrap up your thoughts.
So I was just responding to a question that definitely looking for other route to move, you know, things we have cost implication. The cost will definitely go higher because we already agreed that the route being avoided now used to be the shortest route. So it's going to be longer, it's going to be more expensive therefore, and then the implication generally to families and households, you need to now buy something at a price higher than what it is. And also for small and medium enterprises, their cost of production will definitely go up and all of that. So it's something that actually we affect almost everybody, both at the micro and at the macro level at the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Abiodun Bamidele, who is a businessman, human capital development consultant, for being on Early Exchange today, exploring with us the global issues and their implications. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. It's been an experience.
All right, when we're done with Early Exchange, we'll just take a quick break and return. You don't want to miss the next part. Let's stay.
Lateef Jakonde. Born Lateef Kayode Jakonde in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State, on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enuowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakonde began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakonde editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakonde established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakonde ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakonde established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godi Odidi. My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News. So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, Festac, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of legendary contemporary Nigerian artists, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged Festac 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godi Odidi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News. So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Many thanks for staying tuned to Early Exchange. Now, after talking about crude oil supply, let's look at petroleum supply in Nigeria, petrol specifically. Now, with the Dangote refinery starting operations, it's been joy to a lot of Nigerians, while Nigerians anticipate that petrol supply in the country is going to be more, or petrol availability is going to be sure, and maybe that over time will impact the cost of petrol. It might just result in a reduction in the cost of petrol. Now, while Nigerians have been waiting for this, the Dangote refinery, which has received some amount of crude oil for its operation, says that they have registered some distributors for the commencement of distribution of refined petrol to stations in Nigeria, so that people can begin to buy refined petrol from the Dangote refinery. Joining us on this conversation is Curtis Ogbebo, who is an engineer, and we're talking to us today via a phone call. Good morning, Curtis.
Yeah, good morning, Blessing. Good morning, everyone. Studio.
Please, can you speak louder so we can hear you clearly?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Of course we can. Thank you very much. So what's your take on Dangote refinery saying that they've registered Ipman and some other distributors in readiness for commencement of distribution of refined petrol from the Dangote refinery?
All right, it's a good development for us as a people, for Nigeria as a nation, because for a long time this is what we have been waiting for. We've been clamoring, advocating that Nigeria should move from a consuming nation to a production nation. Now we have a functional refinery who to an extent will be able to refine our crude oil products for local consumption. It's a very welcoming development, and I believe it's going to make a positive impact on the Nigeria economy generally. So, with the commencement of production, we hope to see a significant improvement by way of having excess supply of all the byproducts of crude oil, starting from the petrol, or rather the PMS, the diesel, and all other byproducts, if it's so engaged for in full production. So it's a welcome development, and it's going to have a great impact or improvement in Nigeria economy.
Okay.
All right. Glad you have. You know, the Dangote refinery is the single largest refinery in the world. Do you see it making any impact when it comes to pricing of petrol locally?
Impact on which area, please?
On pricing. When it comes to petrol in Nigeria, you know, there are those who argue that with the commencement of operation, it's going to help reduce, you know, the price of crude oil or the price of petrol, and also the issue of forex, which is part of the challenges the oil marketers are having, is not going to be the order of the day anymore. What's your take on this?
To an extent, in my opinion, to an extent, it's going to have a positive effect on the availability of the product, the PMS, as a case study. And I will also be tempted to believe that it will, to an extent, also affect the pricing by way of, you know, this supply and demand. It has a great effect in cost of products. When you have excess supply in the market, it has a way of reducing the cost. So I believe personally that if the Dangote refinery goes into full production, coupled with the one that is being, the product that is being imported, first it will reduce the rate of importation and it will increase the level of supply. And if there is a excess product in the market, it will definitely affect the pricing. That is what we are expecting. Aside affecting the price, there is the announcement that it's going to affect the Nigerians positively. That is the aspect of employment. That is the first aspect that is going to impact Nigeria greatly. For that refinery to function optimally, it will employ, if I'm not mistaken, over 1,000 or about 1,000 workers, ranging from skilled and unskilled workers. That alone is a great impact on the Nigeria economy for those who is going to either directly affect or indirectly affect. And I'm also very, very optimistic that if it engages in food production, it will affect positively, starting from the availability of the product, the PMS as a case study, and as well as affecting the price or reducing the price.
All right. At the same time, the Port Harcourt refinery, there are expectations that soon Port Harcourt refinery will be refining and distributing. So what's your take on all of this? How do you see the supply of petrol in Nigeria over the next at least 1 year?
Yes, for that of the Port Harcourt refinery, being it in Nigeria government-owned refinery, I cannot categorically say or express optimism that it's going to start producing, or when it starts producing, they are going to sustain production for a long period of time, because the Nigeria state or the Nigeria government have been shown to us not to be a serious government over time. The bottlenecks or the power that be in Nigeria have deliberately make those refineries non-functional so that they can continue to import this product and embezzle or siphon money made for this importation of this product. So we are just hoping that the Nigerian government will be sincere with itself and with Nigerians at this time by allowing that refinery to function, because it has been a deliberate act, in my own opinion, not to make it function. How long did it take a new refinery, Dangote refinery, to be constructed from scratch to completion, and it has started producing when this the state government, or rather the federal government owned refineries have refused it to function for over 2 or 3 decades. So now they are coming up to tell Nigerians that they are doing the maintenance, either it will start functioning or it has started functioning. We hope, because it's only that federal government refinery that can be 100% be sure that the government can regulate its activities. Because looking at the Dangote refinery, it's a private refinery. To an extent, the government cannot interfere neither the government can regulate or determine the pricing because it's a private individual, a private entity or a private company. Nigeria, it can only rely on the cost of production, the cost of buying the crude oil and all that to determine its selling price. But if it's a government owned like the Port Harcourt refinery, if it eventually comes into production, the government can determine the pricing by what? By way of subsidizing its production and by way of regulating the price in a way that it will have a positive effect on the Nigerian people. So I'm still praying and hoping that the federal government will be serious and be sincere with Nigerians regarding our refineries and its production this time. It's only that time, it's only at that level we'll be able to have Nigerians will be able to benefit from the system or from the production.
Okay, now making reference to, if I may put it this way, the success story of Dangote Refinery, there are those who argue that government has no business in business. There are those who argue that the refineries you have in Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna should be privatized or sold, as these national assets are quite critical. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so what's your take on this argument that government has no business in business, given the history of some of these local refineries, Port Harcourt, the one in Warri and Kaduna, that they should be privatized that, so that it can perform up to the expected level, giving the example of Dangote Refinery?
All right. The popular saying that government have no business in business, I don't know. That is a mere fallacy. It's a mere fallacy to me, because without the government, business cannot function. It is government policies. It is government that create policies, and it is these policies that will determine if the business will survive or not. It is the government that creates an enabling environment for business to strive, either directly or indirectly. So it is not true that the government has no business in business. It is government. It is possible that government cannot accurately regulate or determine the prices, but there is a regulatory body, agency set up by the government to monitor the activities of the business and to ensure that the business run in line with the government determined policy. So there are other places in the world where government run business directly. It's only in Nigeria that the politicians, all they do is to extort to strangulate the citizens by way of collecting tax and imposing taxes on the citizens. So to an extent, the government has a major role to play in every business. And I would also be of the opinion that, or rather appeal that the Dangote refinery, being as we speak now, it has the monopoly of producing or refining our crude oil products. I hope it will not also be the case of we have in cement production, when it has been monopolized over the time, and for that reason, he's single-handedly determined the pricing of cement, and you can also attest to it that the price over time have continued to increase to the extent that majority of the citizens cannot afford the cement assistance right now. I also pray and hope that it will not also be applicable in Dangote refinery or refined products, because in this instance I believe we still have options, because we still have marketers who also prefer to import, and who also have the refinery who also produce locally. So there would be, to an extent, a comparison or competition in the market. So by so doing, if government also do not go to an extent, or government agencies do not go to an extent to connive with it, so to say, the owners of this refinery to continue to exploit or strangulate the people. Because if they are fair enough with their policies, that is the only way in Nigeria we feel the positive impact of this business.
So do you think that to handle the issue of monopoly prevents a monopolistic situation when it comes to oil refinery or oil refining rather? Do you think there will be a need to privatize the other refineries so that there are multiple refineries in the country?
I don't think there is a need because, like I said, the government itself have not been sincere. Government have been very corrupt. So I'm of the opinion that the government, the refineries should run under the supervision of the Nigerian government directly, because all the government businesses, institutions that have been privatized over time don't record any meaningful development or progress. The reason being that the government turn back to sell it to themselves or to those known to them. So, for instance, taking the distribution company, the power sector that have been privatized over about a decade that it has been privatized, has there been any reasonable development or meaningful progress? Of course not, because of the policies and the processes of privatizing. So it has never been the solution to the problem. The solution this time would be the policies and the sincerity on the part of government. Because when you now have, for instance, ministers or senators or governors who are supposed to ensure that this business, when privatized, run in line with the expectation of the people, when you now see that those who are supposed to be to ensure that it runs or in the other way around benefit the people, end up selling to themselves. So they will also come up with the policies that will ensure that they continue to strangulate and exploit the people. So the refinery should better be run under the supervision of the Nigerian government.
Thank you very much, Curtis Adobo, for your submissions this morning on the issue of refining of petroleum in Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thank you for having me.
And that's it on the show today. Early Exchange, we thank you for your time with us. We ask that you join us again tomorrow, 8 a.m. West African time, as we'll be looking at some other global issues as well as local issues. I'm Blessing Aichi. Stay with Souq News and enjoy your day.
And from me to you, everything big in life starts from little. Make your day by making those little, taking those little steps for you to get to where you need to get to. Don't forget, Market Insight will come up at 11. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.